I think we'll move directly on to hear from our panel, which features just this incredible blend of park instructors and students. There is so much expertise and so much perspective in this group. And I think we'll first begin by just allowing our panelists to briefly introduce themselves. We have park professors, Dr. Jenny Whitley, Dr. Dianna Carmenaty, and park students, Carl Francis, Muntaka Fawziah, and Makayla Artis. So let's start perhaps with Jenny and Dianna, and I'm going to leave my screen share off for this so we can just see each other. You both, Jenny and Dianna, were selected as FCI Scholarship Fellows, but could you also maybe give us a quick summary of your research interests as they pertain to belonging and perhaps sort of your role at Park?
My name is Jenny Whitley, and I am an assistant professor of math. I'm located at the Parkville campus. And like Erica was mentioning, my scholarly interests include inclusive teaching practices and understanding that how to foster that sense of belonging within the college classroom. So thinking about the different contexts that Lisa and Nunn mentioned, I'm studying what's happening in that classroom, the academic context. And right now I'm working on a longitudinal study tracking first year students at Park here at the Parkville campus, the face-to-face classrooms in their gen eds, and looking for those predictors of students' sense of belonging and their engagement. So what impact the faculty and peers really have on students in their classroom community on their belonging and engagement.
Thank you, Jenny. Dianna, do you mind introducing yourself, sort of your role at Park and your connection to belonging? I think you're muted.
Yes, sorry about that. I am professor of criminal justice administration, and my area of study is dedicated to trying to find correlation between level of education and citizens' complaints against police officers. So bottom line is trying to see if higher levels of education actually help police officers in the way that they communicate or handle citizens to avoid complaints. And my motivation for looking at this area of study is really because so many of our students that come into the criminal justice field or intend to go into the criminal justice field sometimes begin to question whether or not, because, you know, it is a difficult field, and they begin to question whether or not they should continue down this path. And sometimes maybe even question their capacity to be able to continue in this path. Having been a first gen myself, I understand how quickly we can spiral in that direction. And, you know, we're filled with self-doubt. And so I'm hoping that this area of study is going to help us understand the value of education, especially in the field of criminal justice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to introduce our awesome Park students. First, maybe Carl Francis. Could you give us a quick summary of your education at Park so far, your intended degree, maybe what you do also for work?
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Carl Francis. I am no longer a student at Park because now I've graduated last month. I started my journey with Park with my social psychology bachelor's degree, and then I moved on to my education degree in organizational leadership and adult learning, which I just finished up last month. I am currently an instructor for the Department of the Air Force. And this conversation about belonging is such a good one because, through my capstone for my graduate degree, I created a program that I hope to get adopted by my organization that focuses on student-centered learning and with elements of belongingness and elements on focusing on students and, different avenues and different approaches educationally to create information retainability, things that we teach. So I'm just grateful to be a part of the conversation. I definitely appreciate it.
And we definitely absolutely appreciate having you here. Thank you so much. I'd like to turn it over now to Makayla, a student at Park, I believe at the Parkville campus. Maybe you could just tell us about your what you're doing right now at Park, both academically. You have quite a list of things you are currently doing for Park.
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Makayla Artis. I am a junior here at Park. I'm from Kentucky. I am a political science major with a minor in I just declared another minor in legal studies and a minor in leadership. I am a member of the women's basketball team. I am a residence assistant, and I am also the president of our student activities board here at Park. I think for me, the whole conversation of belonging is one that I'm new to, and that I didn't realize that this is something that instructors and professors and faculty talk about, like something that's not really an issue, but something that has to be addressed and that has to be curated to your students. So yeah, it's all been very interesting to me, and I'm very thankful to be here.
Thank you so much, Makayla. And then last, can I please hear from Muntaka, who is joining us today, I think also from the Parkville campus. If you want to just sort of explain sort of your experience at Park or your education with Park and who you are a little bit.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity today to participate in this conference. My name is Muntaka, and my major is nursing. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm a member of Park Student Government Association. I'm a senator of PHGA. I'm also a president from International Club, and I'm an international ambassador as well. And to me, belonging is acclimate, interact, and integrate into Park University environment and culture, which provide us to know each other and enrich our knowledge. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much to all of you. My goal here, we're calling this panel Perspectives on Belonging. And I think anyone just from hearing these 5 folks can see we have such a wealth of perspective in the room here. So my goal is to talk as little as possible, to pose the questions to our panelists and let them really share with you sort of their experience and expertise. So our first question, we've heard from Dr. Nunn sort of on the importance of belonging. And I'm really eager to ground this conversation in the experiences at Park University. So as we said before, Park is a very non-traditional institution in that it prioritizes access to education and supports a relatively non-traditional student body. Park University, as we all know, is open admissions, and most of our new students are transfer students rather than first-time freshmen. 78% of our students take at least one course online, and many don't live on or even near a Park campus. So that means for many Park students, higher education is something that has to fit into already really full, busy, demanding lives. And I would say, as we see here, also true for our Parkville students, right? Like our students are working hard inside and outside of the classroom to make things happen. So Lisa Nunn tells us that existing research shows that a feeling of belonging has a positive impact on academic achievement and graduation rates. And if we care about that, we should also care about belonging. But if we care about student well-being in addition to graduation rates, and this connects back to the question we had on mental wellness and health, then we absolutely need to care about belonging. So my first question to this group is, student belonging should obviously matter to all of us, but why should it matter particularly at Park? Carl, I'm curious if you'd like to take a stab at this one first.
Sure. I think it should matter particularly at Park because a lot of students, seek connectedness, and they seek a lot of validation in the things that they contribute to the classroom. They seek validation in their dialogue and the risks that we take on a daily basis as we interact in our classrooms, right? So as we're looking for that connectedness, I know Dr. Nunn talked about sociology, and I think sometimes it's lost that, the classroom is a social setting, right? And we're looking for that sense of belongingness in the classroom, and what that looks like from professors, and what that looks like communication wise, and our ability to take integrated risks in the classroom. I think it's not only should it matter at Park, I think it consistently has already mattered at Park. In a lot of the classes that I've taken, whether it had been for my bachelor's degree going to my graduate degree, I've noticed that Park consistently takes an intentional effort and trying different approaches, and as it pertains to not only in presenting their curriculum, but how they're dialoguing with students, acknowledging student input, almost letting students teach the class by showcasing the unique things that they already bringing to the table from their unique personal experiences. And being able to do that, the students are seeing themselves in the larger picture of the outcome of the classroom, but also feeling a part of the conversation. So I think it definitely matters specifically at Park, but I think Park is definitely doing the right things and continues to do those things to advance those kinds of conversations.
Thank you, Carl. Jenny or Diana, do you have anything you want to add to that as to why belonging might particularly matter for Park students and at Park University?
I'd like to just kind of go back to what I mentioned earlier, and that is that I am a first gen, and I understand that, oftentimes we kind of need to figure out where our students are coming from. And oftentimes what ends up happening is that our students land at Park University with very little support. And so in order to get them to invest themselves, then I feel like it's really important for us to, create that avenue, right? And so in the classroom, I think it's really important for them to feel connected, so that we can validate the fact that they are here because they belong here, right? And I think that oftentimes what ends up happening is that when they don't have someone that is doing that with them, then oftentimes what will end up happening is that they will begin to self-sabotage. And, I think that we can play a role in making sure that they don't do that. I mean, we can support them through this journey and help them to, develop the confidence to know that.
Thank you, Diana. We'd like to hear from Makayla and Muntaka too. What has your educational experience look like? Has a sense of belonging felt like it was present in your classrooms? Did it help you? Or did a lack of belonging feel like something you maybe had to overcome? I would love to hear sort of your perspective on this.
My experience of higher education at Park has been extremely challenging but rewarding. It's been great having the opportunity to attend diverse classes and to read several education materials. I love to broaden my horizon, and higher education has given me that opportunity. And yes, a sense of belonging has helped me a great deal in my educational journey. For example, I spend most of the time to group study, and as a result, my education journey become easier and also help me to learn each other. That's the best thing.
I love that you emphasize the student connection piece of this as integral to belonging in a classroom. Thank you. And Makayla, how about you? Do you have sort of anything to add here?
Yeah, I think kind of going off of what Carl had said a little bit earlier, thinking about like how Park really takes into account like students appreciate the intimacy of small classes, of knowing your professors, of knowing your classmates. And so that's something that I've really found valuable being a student here. I came from another private school in high school. And so coming to another campus that has a small college town feel, has the small campus base, has professors that you see all around campus. I mean, if you don't, like, you might have them in person. I've had quite a few professors where I've had them in person and online. And so it's like one of those words, they're proactive about it too. Like they ask for feedback for the in-person class and for the online class, like how is it working for you and things like that. But I find value in that just because I know people are invested in me. So I feel more comfortable investing in the programming, in my course, in the work in general.
One of the things you've said sort of all along is that when instructors show their investment in students, students are more likely to show their investment in the class. That's something that's sort of stuck with me from all of our conversations, as just a thread of how important it is. You know, I think for all of us, a core learning moment today from Dr. Nunn is that belonging is extended from the community like a gift. She sort of really hit home that it's not something a student can walk in and demand or look for or create. It's really the onus is on us as instructors and as an academic community to extend belonging to our students. And so I'm curious, in the context of like academic belonging in a classroom, whether it's online or in person, what does belonging look like? Like, when is a moment of like, oh, this is a moment I feel like belonging, the instructor has extended belonging. For those of you who were or are students at Park, do you have insights on this? Do you have a moment where you felt like, oh, this is a moment of belonging?
As a nursing student, I get the opportunity when I feel the belongings when I get opportunity to interact and share my academic challenges and experience with my fellow students. And this has been very beneficial because this is offered us the opportunity to learn from each other, which is belonging from me.
I love that.
I would also agree with Muntaka. I think I've never really been, I haven't been in a class where I haven't felt like I belonged, not only with the professor, but with the students. Being a first generation college student as well, it was hard at first to understand that these people are here to support me. Like, I don't have to go in and do it by myself. And I'm someone that does take my academics like very seriously. Like it definitely comes before everything. So it's like, I didn't think that I wanted help. Like, I didn't think that I should reach out for help and things like that. But understanding that these people are here for me they're not here to judge a grade or anything. They're here to get me the content, to get me the skills that I need to get into my dream career. And so I think courses that allow us to present in class, I've been in quite a few where we like lead a class discussion, lead a class in some sort of activity. And so I think those type of classes, those type of interactions with students, it helps us learn not only the content, but also how to manage a situation like that.
It's almost like creating a team environment towards learning. And I love the idea, both you and Muntaka talk about putting students as sort of in the role of both learners, but also teachers. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Jenny or Dianna, are there things that you specifically do that you can share to create belonging in your classrooms at Park?
I think that something that I have learned, and I'll just validate what the students have already shared and what Lisa Nunn has shared in her research, is emphasizing that growth mindset and that mistakes are and productive struggle and mistakes are all part of learning, and that the goal of learning is always growth over perfection. And to do that, though, you can't just say that in your classroom and hope that students feel that way. You have to do a lot of work at the forefront as faculty to create a safe space that students feel like they can fail forward. It may start by looking at your syllabus, your grading policies. It's also looking at your classroom dynamic and thinking about those interactions with students. There's so much that goes into creating that safe space. And there's a lot that you can do at the forefront, but then there's still going to be students and moments in the semester where there's going to be hard moments, right? And I think reminding myself, and this is a reminder for myself at the beginning of the semester, to be ready to reach out to those students at that time, being very proactive. And I'm saying this with a lot of empathy because I know we get busy and there's that middle of the semester where we're really busy and we let students slip. I let students slip away, and I've done it. But instead of letting that happen, thinking about spending 30 minutes in a week and reaching out to a couple of students that have become inactive, or you can tell they're struggling just based off of their activity, and just asking how are they doing, having some story, hearing their stories, hearing how they're doing. I think that makes the biggest difference, is just reaching out, checking on them, and being there for them when they need you the most, and not waiting for them to reach out to you, being proactive and being the person that reaches out.
And I really appreciate these moments during a conference where we have real in syncness with our speakers, because this just brings me back also to what Dr. Nunn said about trusting your students. And the question is, how are you as a person? It is not I'm concerned because you're not meeting expectations. It's returning to the student as a person. And the question is, how are you? I see you. So thank you for that moment of connection. And it also brings us so seamlessly to our next question, which is that, in most institutions, a key signal of academic belonging is academic competence, right? I think all of us can think back to being students, and when we're doing really well in a class, it's very easy to feel like we belong in that class and in that institution. This is probably true at our work or in our lives too. It's perhaps a moment of success where we don't need the external or intentional reminders of belonging. So Nunn reminds us that grades are not synonymous with academic belonging, and belonging is more comprehensive and more holistic than mere performance. In fact, it is often in moments of failure when academic belonging is generously extended to students. And I think this one resonated for me, and clearly for all of us too. It feels particularly true for the students who are struggling in our classes, or maybe perhaps more broadly confronting struggles in their lives. And so my next question is, maybe you could add some color or perspective to this claim that these moments of struggle are really critical in extending belonging. Dianna, do you want to jump in and add something here?
I definitely do. I am currently teaching a course, forensic science, and criminal justice is a very difficult field. But when you bring in forensic science can be quite challenging. And I know, and we actually spent the first week just settling their minds, because immediately I had students that said, I'm not biology. I did horrible in biology, or I really struggled in chemistry, and now I'm supposed to get through this forensic science class. And so, we've come up with ways of assessing their performance. I'm not expecting them to know cover to cover, but we're going to make them experts in this one area. And so, they're going to, and this is where me as a professor, I've got to find a way where, how am I going to get them through 16 weeks, give them all the information they need, and help them to feel confident and successful, and have them learn what they need to learn, right? And so we're ready to go. They have two options on how they're going to show me or demonstrate that they have become experts in this particular field, whether it's blood splatter, fiber analysis, DNA, whatever area, whatever field that they choose, then, that is going to be their focus. And we're going to, throughout the semester, we're going to practice how we're going to communicate this to the point where they can begin to develop that confidence. They have two ways of completing that assignment. They can either videotape themselves with a PowerPoint, or if they feel more confident with just writing a standard essay, I'm okay with that too. So we've already established the guidelines, and I got to tell you, we finished strong. I feel like here we are, week 2, and I've got a bunch of students going, I'm ready.
I love
And
it. I
that's
love the
what
flexibility of this and
and
just the
that's,
commitment to learning, the growth mindset.
yeah, yeah.
Like one thing also, Carl, you said earlier is sort of your role and your intention to integrate belonging in your work with the Air Force. I'm wondering if this comes up for you at all in your, post-park work in what you're doing now.
Yeah, it definitely does. So if you guys allow me just a little latitude. So I teach military instruction. So military instructions, it's a little bit more strict than maybe like a public college course or private sector course or something to that nature. A lot of what we do is behavior based through a lot of repetition. And I think there's importance in adding like the cognitive and the social aspect in the classroom, allowing them to critically think about the things that they do, and then also the social interaction that needs to take place between me as an instructor, them as a student, and me being open as an instructor to receive communication and feedback back from those students. So in those moments of weakness, I think it's really important, and I try to integrate these things in my classes, is that I highlight what they're doing well, and then I tactfully redirect them to get the most out of them in other areas that they may be weak at. So that way they're feeling, they're getting some kind of self-efficacy or getting some kind of actualization from knowing what they're doing right. So I'm keeping them focused, I'm keeping them motivated, without allowing them to stay in the spirit of, I'm not doing well, so therefore in this one thing, so therefore I might not be doing well in all things. And then they start questioning their capabilities, and then that translates in their how interactive they are in the classroom and things of that nature. So I try to be really intentional and mindful of where I was in my development at that stage, what I would have wanted from an instructor or a professor, whether it was military or college or otherwise. And try to keep those that may be struggling still engaged, part of the conversation. They're still just as connected to everyone else that might be, in their eyes, excelling in a different way, but highlighting what it is that they're doing well so they stay a part of the larger context. And one of the things that I learned in my graduate degree was like buying in, right? So if we get these students to buy in to us, but we do that by showing them that we buy into them. So they get their return on investment that they desire from the classroom, from those outcomes. And then we as instructors also get our return on investment. Makayla said a great thing. You and Makayla said a great thing earlier about a team mindset. Makayla highlighted the benefit, which I think, doesn't get talked about enough, of a smaller classroom. My classrooms are 72 students a day. I really gotta, my personality really has to shine through in a lot of these classrooms and try to be as personal as possible. And I think Park does a really good thing with these small classrooms. It almost makes it, after you get through a couple of weeks, it's like a little miniature family. And after a while, the instructor doesn't have to do nearly as much work to motivate, because the students are starting to motivate each other, because they've been with each other for so long now that they're learning, whether intentionally or unintentionally, to motivate one another. So in those moments of weakness, I think it's very important to elevate and highlight what they're doing well, and then also tactically redirect in the weak areas, so that way they can still stay engaged and feel part of a larger context of the conversation.
Thank you, Carl. And I know we're getting close to our Q&A time, but I really want to hear from Makayla Muntaka on the response to this question, because we had a prior conversation and their insight is invaluable. Makayla, I'm wondering if you would be willing to share with us, you talked about what it's like to walk into an upper level classroom and for students just to feel that immediate sense of, oh, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I think also to go along with what Carl had just said and what Professor had said right before, I walked into several classrooms and like, I don't know if I'm gonna like make it through. Like, I think after that first week, like I need to hurry up and withdraw before like it's too late. But of course, never backing down from a challenge where I know I have support. Like at this point, like I know I have support. And so being a junior, I am in upper level classes that require a lot of reading, that require dense text, a lot of writing. And like in particular, I'm a political science major with a concentration in American politics, but I've taken quite a few global politics classes. But that's not something I have much knowledge of. It's I have interest in now, of course, but before I was taking these classes, I didn't. And so walking into these classrooms, it was like, okay, I'm listening to everyone talk. I don't know what to even add to this conversation other than I don't know. But it's also not having that fear anymore to say that I don't know. So like Carl was just saying, like that small classroom setting, I'm able to be like, I don't know. And we can spend a day speaking on what I don't know because we have 4 or 5 people in the class, like four people in the class. It was a war and terrorism class um that specifically was just a big problem for me. And so it was just so hard for me to grasp certain concepts and apply them. Um, but it was more valuable to me that I had support, not necessarily about getting it right, but I'm going in the right direction. And so classmates, like Carl was saying, like we ended up nurturing each other, like helping each other along the way. And our professor was a facilitator at that point. So he allowed us to just go ahead and have these conversations, what we don't understand, what we feel about certain things. Um, and it was never a right or wrong answer. It was more of the idea of our minds are working towards something that we're trying to understand. And eventually it would be like, yes, this is it. But it would never be something where we were discouraged from um, trying to get it ourselves first.
I love that. And Muntaka, I really want to hear from you because you said something to me earlier too about making resources really available in a way that resonated with me as an instructor. I had thought I was doing that, but after I spoke with you, I was like, I could do better.
I'm totally agree with what Makayla called and the Professor Dianna said earlier, but I would like to just add one thing that I agree with Nan theory about grades are not synonymous with academic belonging, but a critical look will make it safe for me to say that if a student feels safe and belonging, that can automatically make them perform better academically because we study better when we are in a right frame of mind.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you so much. We are out of time for the panel. We'll move on to the Q&A, but I just also want to say again how incredible I think all of you are, that this panel is, and it just reaffirms what I said earlier, that the students are really the ones that impact and transform who we are as a university. And Park is very lucky to have all of you. So the last question I had was just a short question. What is one thing instructors could do in the next year at Park to sort of create belonging in our classrooms? I don't think we have time to sort of go around and answer it. And actually, I might open this up to the whole group. I would love to see sort of just a waterfall in the chat of everyone typing sort of one thing we could all do, given what we learned today, to create belonging in our online or our face-to-face classrooms, the modality, the discipline you teach. We'll save the chat. So I'm hoping we can maybe create something out of this to sort of show the impact in our classrooms. But in the very few moments we have left, I'm wondering if anybody has a specific question they'd like to ask our panel of students, instructors, of the folks who have spoken today. And you can use the raised hand function maybe, since the chat is going to be blowing up a little. Emily, would you like to ask a question?
Well, this is to our students. And, definitely in Carl's case, I know you took a lot of online courses, but as you were talking about just the, kind of the concept of psychological safety really in the classroom and feeling like it's a safe space and a space where you can say, hey, this is really hard, or I don't understand this, or whatever. How does being in an online discussion board, how can we make that better? Because I get nervous. Me, having been in higher ed for so long, I get nervous when I have to write something in a discussion board, even when I'm writing it for my students, I get nervous. It's such a performance. It's so public. So how can we make those discussion boards a little bit more welcoming and comfortable for students to know that you don't have to have all the answers and it doesn't have to look beautiful and all that good stuff?
And Carl, Makayla, Muntaka, just feel free to jump in to answer.
I think for me, the discussion boards, I like the discussion boards because it's something that I have to discuss, but then it's like a reference point too. So if I'm completing an assignment for that week, I can go back in and see, well, what was said about this? What was said about this? What did my professor say about this? What feedback did he give me? But I think it was something that I just put in the chat actually, that online courses for me are just harder. Like, and a lot of my peers are like, they're easier because they're online, they're quick, you can get the work done and get out. But I didn't, sometimes at first it didn't feel like I was consuming knowledge. I was just trying to get the work done, trying to pass the class. But I think like right now I'm really more invested in how my professor is available to help me. And so one thing I had said was, I'm in fundamentals of logic right now, and he has online Zoom hours, like office hours. And I've logged into them quite a few times, just to see like, these are certain things that I can't put into words to write an email to you, but I know you don't have office hours. But this Zoom office hours is really helping me. And so Zoom is a great feature for online courses. I've also set up like Zoom meetings with other online professors, but he has strict hours where he just logs on the Zoom, is sitting, has people in the lobby and admits us whenever he's not talking to another student. So I think more of a direct conversation with a student would be a lot more manageable, a lot more intimate for the student to perceive information a bit better, like an email thread.
For the discussion questions, one thing that I don't know if Park has always done this, but I've noticed it a lot in the latter part of my degree plan, was that we would have discussion questions, but then we'd have Zoom meetings to discuss those discussion questions. So me knowing that I'm going to have to discuss what it is that I wrote in the discussion thread, it allowed me to lend more of my voice to the discussion thread, as opposed to just answering the question. So I'm lending more of my own opinions, and I'm wording things in ways that aren't so just like academically correct, but also, hey, here's my personality also on this page, knowing that I'm going to have to go into a Zoom conversation and illustrate that in real time with my peers and things like that. I think Park doing that, I think is a great thing that they do. I'll be honest with you, in my bachelor's degree, the discussion posts, I used to dread them. I used to be like, oh gosh, like, okay, let's do the discussion thread. And, some students, I concur, and then, but now it's more of a, like, we're having more of a conversation about not only the assignment, but, how we're viewing what's being asked of us in a way that resonates with us, or maybe it doesn't resonate, and we're able to express that it doesn't and have those conversations in those Zoom conversations.
Thank you all. We are at the end of the hour, so I will try to keep closing remarks really brief. I don't want to end though without just saying thank you again to our students, our instructors, our faculty who shared with us today. I'm sort of blown away by all of you, and I cannot just wait to see what you do next.